Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today, in this video, well, I'm selling the RS that I've got on the back and picking up another RS. In fact, if you haven't seen my first video in this little two-parter, then please do go back and check that out. And that's my feature on the Ford Escort RS1600i. Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful car that was. But I have sold it to a chap who lives a bit further down in Cornwall. And well, it's on the back right now. It's about an hour from my house down to Colin's house. Colin, who's buying the RS1600i. And as I teased in the last video, he's part exchanging another RS. And it's an Escort. And well, I can't wait to see it. Look, I've loved this RS1600i on the back. But to be honest, the Escort RS that I'm collecting, well, it's a little bit more kind of in tune with the cars that I enjoy, that I feature regularly here on the channel. It's a little bit newer, a little bit more my era, I suppose. So let's get down to Cornwall. Let's unload this RS1600i and say goodbye to it. And I really will be sad to see it go. And then let's load up, hopefully, anyway, if Colin likes the RS1600i, let's load up the new one and let's bring it back. And if you like your fast forward content or just like following me and all the car antics I get up to, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, I'll see you in about 50 minutes. Of course, you already know, because I put it in the thumbnail. I took back in part exchange against the RS1600i a Mk5A Ford Escort RS2000, a four-wheel drive RS2000. Here's some footage of me swapping the cars over on the transporter. I'm going to miss that RS1600i. In fact, if you haven't seen it, do go back and watch that video because, well, the car just out of this world. But I'm really pleased to have this. Now, before we continue, before I talk to you about the history of the RS2000, before I show you around this car, well, I think it's important that I say that in this video, I'm going to be talking about Mk5 and Mk5A Escorts. I'm not going to be talking about the trailblazing, rear-driven, iconic Mark 1 and Mark 2 Escorts, nor am I going to be talking about the car that, well, proved to be absolutely the right car at the right time for Ford, the Mark 3 Escort, which of course evolved into the Mark 4 Escort, now both absolutely loved by Ford enthusiasts. No, we're going to be talking about the Escort that was, well, considered unexceptional when it was launched back in 1990. A car that was deliberately conservative in its design and delivery, deliberately by Ford, who were very keen to avoid a repeat of the launch of the Mark 1 Sierra, which initially turned lots of, well, traditional Ford buyers off. Look, the Mk5 Escort, well, it was considered average when launched, average in its design, average in its dynamics, average in its specification with some out-of-date engine options. So much so that, well, Ford almost rushed through a facelift of the car, the Mk5A, which is the car that you see here. For me, well, I've always adored the Mk5 Escort. I did from launch, and well, my love for this car, the love for the Mk5, was further helped by my mum, who bought brand new a J-Reg Ford Escort Encore from Target Ford in Crawley. My mum kept that car for, well, 10 or so years. It was a brilliant car for us. And well, I love these cars so much that I actually own a Mk5 Escort. I own a Mk5 XR3i Cabriolet, which I've owned for many years, and actually I'm yet to really properly feature it on the channel. And I promise I'll do a full feature on that car very soon. Now, whilst I know that there are people out there like me, people who love the Mk5, Mk5A, Mk6 Escorts, I happen to think that affection for this once dismissed mark of Escort is actually on the increase. I watch the prices of these quite keenly, and I can see the prices are moving up, particularly for the hotter versions of these Escorts. I see more Mk5, Mk5A, Mk6 Escorts now at car shows. And well, you're watching this video, so you too must be interested in the Mk5, Mk5A Escorts, particularly the RS2000, and what a wicked car this is. We have to remember, I suppose, that this is a hot hatch from the 90s. The 1980s, of course, we had that incredible boom of hot hatches, all those fantastic hot hatches. And coming into the 1990s, well, we saw heavier, safer, more conservative hot hatches dismissed as being, well, just too slow. And this wasn't just Ford. Okay, now that we've cleared that up, now that you know what to expect from this video, let's get back to this. My stunning Caymen blue Escort RS2000 4x4. Well, let's start with the Mk5 Escort, which was launched in October 1990. And over the next 12 to 18 months, a variety of models and trim levels became available, with petrol and diesel engines varying from 1.3 to 1.8 litres. Then, late in 1991, in readiness for the car to go on sale in 1992, came quite possibly the best television advert, the best television commercial of all time, aired across terrestrial television channels. There was no YouTube back then. There was no watch on demand. You had to watch television and hope that in the advert break of whatever you were watching, this advert would be aired. And if you were lucky enough, and I mean lucky, you might have recorded it on VHS tape so that you could watch it back again and again. The advert was Rocky themed with Rocky music. The champ is back. It was a 60-second advert commercial masterpiece featuring the 1970s RS2000 and the immortal words,
"I'm gonna make you great again. The people want you back."
Then follows a montage as the Mk5 RS2000 is developed before climbing the iconic Rocky steps. Well, that was it. I was hooked on the car. And I think of all of the three latter RS2000 models, the Mk5, the Mk5A and the Mk6, well, I think those early Mk5s are my absolute favourite. And well, if you look at the market right now, you'll see that prices on those early cars have absolutely rocketed. Now, the Mk5 Escort RS2000 during development was actually called the XR Plus. With the pre-production cars, their chassis were stamped XR Plus, and it was going to be called the XR3i 2000, and that's how it was initially introduced to the press. But Ford saw an opportunity. They saw an opportunity to revive the RS badge, and in doing so, well, they gave the RS2000 the kudos, the heritage that comes with that Rally Sport badge. I'll get down nice and low so that you can see me and this lovely engine. Now, I believe that Ford had originally intended to put the 2-litre Z-Tech into the RS2000, but that engine wasn't quite ready in time. So they opted for their twin overhead cam 2-litre engine, which is actually the same engine that's in my Ford Sierra XR 4x4. Yeah, this is the i4 engine, which was a common find under the bonnet of many Sierras and Granadas. But the engines that went into these RS2000s had one big difference, and that is that these are 16 valves and not 8 valves. And it was thanks to this and some other modifications, including a tubular exhaust manifold, that helped the RS2000, as the television advert told us, produce 150 PS, 148 brake horsepower. In October 1992, less than a year into the production of the RS2000, the Mk5 Escort underwent a facelift and became the Mk5A, this car. The RS2000, in keeping, it gained a more pronounced front grille. It gained these kind of sticky out, merged into the boot lid rear lights. And well, one loss for the RS2000 was those lovely kind of bonnet bulges that appeared on the Mk5 Escort. They didn't carry over into the Mk5A, which in my opinion is a bit of a shame, but this remains a very, very pretty car. Now, when new, you could buy your RS2000 in diamond white. You could buy it in radiant red, in ash black, moondust silver, Polaris grey, Pacifica blue, Caymen blue, as this one is, Levante grey, and more latterly in Nouveau red, in petrol blue, tourmaline green, a dark aubergine, and a rawless blue. Now, back to Caymen blue, to this car's colour, only available on RS2000s between 1993 and 1994. That makes this one of the rarest colours to have your RS2000 in. Well, I've got to say, it's probably one of the best, certainly my favourite. I mean, it looks absolutely stunning, particularly in today's sunshine. What a pretty colour. Now, I've been focusing on Mk5 RS2000 development and kind of concentrating that so far in this video, focusing it on the two-wheel drive cars. We need to come on to the 4x4 RS2000s. But before I do, definitely worth mentioning the Mk5 RS2000 also spawned a fairly successful model-specific motorsport, Ford's Rally Sport series of 1992 and 1993. It was a multi-discipline clubman motorsport, attracting drivers such as Burns and McRae, and evidencing, well, these RS2000s are proper RS cars. So let's talk about these four-wheel drive RS2000s. Now, there was a project back in the Mark IV Escort days to produce a four-wheel drive XR3i and RS Turbo. And well, that project was ditched around 1987. But it was the subframe design and the underbody modifications that paved the way to create the 4x4 Mark V RS2000. Using a Sierra rear differential, these are permanent 40/60 four-wheel drive cars, and they have a plastic saddle-shaped petrol tank which was required to create the necessary space for that differential. Plus, this car has a shallower boot floor, meaning these actually come with a space-saver spare. Around 6,500 RS2000s were made. That's Mark V, Mark 5A and Mark VI. And of the 6,500, 6,000 of them were two-wheel drive, meaning only 500 4x4 cars were ever produced. And of that 500, it's reported that only 137 of them were Mark 5A RS2000s, and with 88 of them being purchased by Malcolm Wilson Motor Racing to be turned into Group A rally cars, well, that makes this one of only 49 Mark 5A 4x4s to ever reach the road. Well, that makes this one of the rarest RS road cars ever produced, along with the likes of the Mark II RS1800. And well, we all know what's happened to the prices of those. Before I show you around here, the inside of an RS2000, well, let's spend a moment calling out and I think celebrating the styling of a Mk5A RS2000. The three-door shell of the Escort, well, it creates a handsome platform onto which Ford fitted the RS body kit, which included that boot lid spoiler, side skirts and sports bumpers and lowered suspension. And the wheels, well, they're 15-inch split 5-spoke alloy wheels, which are unique to the RS cars of this time. Back in here, well, the first thing that you notice when you open the door of this car are these stunning Recaro seats, which are trimmed in Acadian velour fabric. And well, not only do they look great, they're really supportive and comfortable sports seats. And if you can peel your eyes off these lovely seats, well, standard equipment for an RS2000 includes a tilt and slide sunroof, front electric windows and rear quarter opening windows, which I just love on any three-door car, and central locking. The dash has some nice red detailing and it also has a unique orange glow, with almost all other Fords having a green illumination there on the dashboard. The red detailing on the dash doesn't extend to the gear knob. In the Mk5, you had a red gear knob, not in the Mk5A. And the steering wheel, well, it's this lovely leather-trimmed wheel, which is also fitted with an airbag. And additional options that you could spec your brand new RS2000 with included a passenger airbag and air conditioning, which this car has. Now the i4 engine was untouched in these 4x4 RS2000s from the two-wheel drive cars. But the result and the main difference of all that engineering to fit that 4x4 system to these Escorts, well, it can only really be experienced when driving this car on roads like this. The RS2000 4x4, it received some real praise. People were really impressed by its road holding. And I've got to say, I completely agree. Ugh. Driving this car, it feels so planted. And while you feel you can throw it into pretty much any corner and come out the other side. Yeah, it's lovely. Now, one of the downsides to adding the four-wheel drive system, of course, was weight. These 4x4 cars are around 75 kilograms heavier than their two-wheel drive brothers, and that reduced the 0 to 60 time. Ford claimed these could do 0 to 60 in 8.6 seconds. The two-wheel drive cars around half a second quicker. Don't think it's that noticeable really, because, well, this car feels effortless. I'll tell you about that in a moment. I've got to say, I really like the exhaust note on this car, particularly when you push it up past 3,000 revs. It's really raughty and, wow, makes a lovely noise. You can feel it right the way through the car. Look, this is a 2-litre naturally aspirated RS Escort. It's not going to have the momentum, the gain of pace that you see in some of the turbocharged RS cars. Of course it's not. It doesn't throw you back in the seat in the same way. But put this car in 5th gear at pretty much any speed and accelerate, and well, it just goes on and on and on. it gains speed in a really nice linear way and just keeps going up way beyond the speed limit, I imagine. Yeah, it's really, really nice. Certainly quick enough. This car's got a character all of its own. And well, I really, really like it. In Mark 5 and Mark 5A form, well, the RS2000 was produced and sold between 1992 and 1994, and it was superseded by the Mark 6, which continued both in two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive variants, with production ceasing in 1996, with the sporting Escort mantle then being passed over to the Escort GTI. And we'd have to wait 6 years for the next car from Ford to wear the RS badge. And that was the Ford Focus RS Mark I. And well, that was a very different animal indeed. And as for this Mark 5A RS2000, well, as for the RS2000 4x4, well, it wears the RS badge. And with that RS badge comes, well, a great deal of expectation from us Ford enthusiasts. As for this car, I think it's simply gorgeous in design, particularly in Cayman blue, as I've said earlier. What a stunning looking hot hatch. And well, with these Mark 5A and Mark 6 Escorts, particularly in two-wheel drive, being probably the cheapest way right now to get into Ford RS ownership, well, I think they represent absolutely fantastic value. And as for this car, the RS2000 4x4, well, it's simply brilliant to drive. This actually isn't my first RS2000. Around 10 years ago, I actually bought and owned for a short while a Ford Escort RS2000 Mark VI in Tourmaline green. It was a two-wheel drive car, and here we are stopping at McDonald's on the way back from collecting it with my dad driving back in my then ST220. Look, my first RS2000, it was a bit rough. It was my first RS car, but it was a bit rough. Very, very different to this car. But what's been nice about owning this Mark 5A for the short time that I have is it's taken me right back to the days when I first got that RS2000, taking me back into a hot Mark 5 Escort. And well, it's absolutely brilliant. As for this car, well, I'm going to sell it. You can't keep them all, as people say. And to be honest, I've got different cars in my collection that I'd probably always look to take out and drive than I would this one. So better that I find a new owner for this car and that, well, it goes to someone who's going to cherish the car, who's going to improve the car, but most importantly, who's going to use, drive, and hopefully show this car because, well, this car just needs to be seen out and about on the road. It really is brilliant. I say, I've thoroughly enjoyed having this car. I've thoroughly enjoyed driving it. And I hope that you have enjoyed this video featuring the RS2000 4x4. If you have, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Please let me know your thoughts about this car, about anything at all you want in the comments below. Subscribe because it really helps me. And well, I'll see you on the next. Bye for now. Bye-bye.